Hello, everybody. I'm glad to be here again with you. This month, we are going to proceed with our study of the Obedience book. But before that, let's just start with our initial prayer. So let's concentrate our thoughts, elevating to the spiritual benefactors, ask them to help us, to support us during this presentation today. And also, we ask Jesus for all their blessing. May we explain as clearly as possible the subject that we are going to present today. And may all have the comprehension of what we will have see today. Thank you. So be it. Okay, so today we are going to see the subject regarding the development of the mediums. And this is something very important in Spiritism because mediums are the workers uh, which participate in the Spiritist centers. They work in many situations there in the spiritual assistance and also in teaching lessons about Spiritism. And so this is very important. We are going to see today. Okay, so let's proceed. Kardec addresses the development of mediums from the point of view of the writing mediumship, which was um, very widespread in his time. Today, we have a different situation. Today, the talking mediums are more common. Writing mediumship is what we call psychography, and talking mediumship is what we name as psychophony. So today, psychophony is more common than psychography. But for the purpose of studying the development of a mediumship, it doesn't matter what kind of a mediumship you are based on, right? So in this case, we are going through this writing mediumship, and what Kardec says is in the medium's book is that in order for a spirit to be able to communicate, there must be a certain fluidic combination between the spirit and the medium. So it means that the medium, as we already know, we all, right, who are incarnate person, we are a spirit that we have our physical body, and let's say between we as spirit and the physical body, we have the perispirit or spiritual body, and this body is a fluid, right? So is composed of fluids, and the spirit is the same. You have this carnate spirit, you have the spirit, and but this carnate spirit has only the fluidic body, the perispirit. They don't have a physical body as we do, of course, right? So there must be a combination between our perispirit and the perispirit of the communicating spirit. That's what Kardec is saying here, right? So without such combination, the communication will not occur. And in the beginning, Kardec says, the medium should retain from evoking a particular spirit, because normally we say, well, I would like to communicate with a beloved person, let's say by my grandmother, for example, that passed away 10 years ago. But in the beginning, that would not be possible. So what Kardec recommends is that in the beginning, we make a generalized evocation, always in God's name. So because when we pray before doing this kind of a work, let's say, we attract the help of the good spirits. And in that case, Kardec says that the spirit that would communicate with us could be a loved one, but also could be someone that we didn't know when he or she was alive, right? So, and also can be the spirit of our guardian angel, like it happens with Kardec, for example, right? In the beginning of his work to developing all the Spiritism doctrine, he received some communication from his guardian angel, let's say, which was the spirit of truth, which anticipated to him the mission that he would be developing during the next years. At that time, he was already at the age of 50 years. So we have all the situation. So we don't, in the beginning, we don't, it's not recommended that we try to evoke a particular person, because we are just going to initiate our practice. Then, what Kardec says, because he's talking about the writing mediumship, he says that in the beginning we just abandon our hand to its natural movement. So abandon hand means that we are with a pen or pencil in our hand, and then we just abandon on a sheet of a paper, and then let wait for its natural movement, not hindering or helping it, because this is something that should be spontaneous. Spontaneous from our point of view, because our hands actually is directed by, or is driven by the communicating spirit. And so in the beginning, it's most probable, it's very probable that nothing happens, right? So that's why Kardec recommends that we should renew our attempt every day for 10 to 15 minutes each time for, let's say, about a month. Could be less, could be more, until we have the first manifestation of the mediumship. And what Kardec says that there is an approach that yields good results, and when in that would be already developed medium to help us in our tentative, right? So, and then the developed medium just put his or her hands upon our hand very lightly, right? Not directing our hands, just very lightly. And then, because in that case, Kardec says, our hand normally, our hand would move immediately, spontaneously from our point of view, right? Because the the help of this such developed medium should facilitate the communicating spirit to drive our hand. And so what he says is that such a medium is a kind of a teacher who is no longer necessary when we become sufficiently skillful, right? So this is a hint from Kardec. And then what he says also is that we have already seen this before. The faculty, the mediumship, is somehow related to the organic predisposition. So that's why, for example, it doesn't depend on the person's faith or the person skepticism, right? Since it's the organic predisposition, we can have a case when a disbelieving person becomes surprising, because as soon as he puts his hand on that sheet of paper with a pen, he begins to write, right? And he is a disbelieving person. And for the other hand, you can have sincere believers who cannot produce anything because he or she does not have the organic predisposition. That's what Kardec is saying here, right? So what is the first indication of such ability to the writing mediumship? Is a sort of a quivering in the arm or hand. So you feel that your hand are in some way moving along, right? So In the beginning, he says, the medium does not write a complete sentence with the words, right? In the beginning, he may just make some traces, for example, some meaningless symbols, right? Later, the characters become more precise, he says. Then you can write a short word, for example. Then you can write a sentence, and then you can write a letter, for example, right? So it's something that progresses degree by degree, right? And also in the beginning, we trace such words very slowly, and then we with the practice we acquire the necessary speed. So it's a kind of, it's like you, let's say, learn to swim or to run a bicycle, right? So you need practice. And the main difficulty, Kardec says, encountered by most novice mediums, those who are initiating, is that it's very easy to have a communication of less evolved spirits. And in that case, we may be controlled by such a spirit, such a less evolved spirit. This is the issue that we are going to see next month, right? Which is the issue of obsession. Obsession is when a low evolved spirit come close to us, involve us, and try to dominate us. And then we have a less or more serious kind of a domination from such less evolved spirits. As that's why in the next month we are going to know about all the types of obsession and how we can get rid of such a situation, right? But a medium which is that is initiating, he doesn't know how to tackle with such situation, right? So this is why Kardec says that this is the main difficulty. And all our attention, he says, should be employed not to allow such a less evolved spirit to gain a foothold. Right? So we shouldn't pay much attention to him, to give much confidence to them, right? Because then they would involve us and try to dominate us. And here we have again the importance of a prayer, right? So the first precaution, Kardec says, is to arm ourselves with sincere faith. We ask the assistance of our guardian angel. As we know in Spiritist doctrine, we can see in the Spiritist book, all of us, each one of us, have our guardian angel, right? So it is we call in Spiritism, we call our protector spirits, those who follow with us during our incarnation. They help us in difficult situations, and they're a kind of a guardian, as it's saying here, right? So if we ask for their assistance, then they are there on the spiritual world, they can well, let's say, control the situation where these less evolved spirits try to approach us. And the second precaution, Kardec says, is to dedicate ourselves to recognize the nature of the first communicating spirit. So it's important what he always used to say, Kardec, is that all communication we should put through our reason and common sense, right? You should not accept any communication from any spirit, right? So that's what he's saying here. And for such purpose, a study for the Spiritist doctrine is indispensable beforehand. When the spirit reaches the end of what you wanted to say, for example, we put our hand there, on the sheet upon the sheet of paper, and then our hand starts to move spontaneously from our point of view, and we write, for example, two or three sentences. And actually, the spirit is doing that, right? When the spirit ends finish what here it would want to communicate, our hands stay still. Right? And by the other hand, when the spirit still has something to communicate, our hand does not stop, right? Uh, Even if we want to stop it. So that's what Kardec is saying here, because it means that the spirit is driving our hands, not ourselves, right? And there are some cases when we as mediums, we are aware of what we are writing. And then we could question, well, this that what I'm writing here, then I'm seeing here what I'm writing. Is it from me or from the spirit? So this kind of doubt arises in such situation. But then what Kardec says, by carefully observing what we are writing, we can make a distinction, right? Because there is some communication that we see in the world. This could not be from me because I even doesn't know this kind of a matter, or I didn't think about this. So this is we acquired this with experience too. Uh, then after the faculty, in this case the right mediumship, has been developed, it is essential, Kardec says, that we as medium not abuse of such faculty, right? Because mediumship is given to us by God, we say, to for a good purpose, not to use for situation where we have a personal interest, for example, right? So that's why Kardec says we must utilize this faculty only at appropriate times, because spirits are not constantly at our orders. I cannot, as a medium, I cannot say, well, now I'm going to write a letter. Right? No, depends if the spirit want or not to write such a letter, right? Because sometimes no spirit wants to communicate, we will not write anything. And then we have another problem that we study at the end of the medium's book, which is the problem of fraud, right? Because sometimes the medium said, why I'm going to write something, but there is no spirit there to communicate, then he write for himself. This is a fraud, right? Because it's not communication from the spirit. So this is a problem that arises also from the bad utilization of such faculty. So that's why Kardec says, if we are always conscious that we should use this faculty for good use, not to satisfy vain curiosity, and utilize it at appropriate times, then we would avoid the risk of being deceived by a low evolved spirit, right? Which he named here as pranksters. Now we are going to, after talking about the development of mediumship, let's talk a little bit about the problem and dangers of mediumship. Because there are situations where we should not incentivize someone to develop a mediumship. So that's what we are going to see here. There are times, Kardec says, that is prudent, even necessary, to abstain from the use of a mediumship. It depends on the physical and mental state of the medium. Mediumship always, in some way, it dissipates energy from us. So you cannot imagine, for example, a person who is very ill, for example, very sick, to develop a mediumship. It would not make any sense to do that, because it dissipates much of our energy. So physical illness is a situation where we should not practice the mediumship, and also the mental state of the medium. Um, well, regarding the physical, for example, you have also the situation of fatigue, right? And when the mediums feel fatigued, it's time to stop the exercise of the faculty, because it wouldn't be good for him, right? Regarding the mental state, Kardec says that those people um, who, for example, show signs of eccentricity in their ideas, right? Or weakness in their mental faculties. While in this such case, they should not develop mediumship, because when we have such a kind of situation, this person, for example, if he has weakness in his or her mental faculties, by trying to develop it or exercising mediumship, um, they could have lost their reason of, and then they would have a mental problem, right? A mental problem, and that why they would not exercise or try to develop the faculty. And the best thing to do, Kardec says, is to, well, to steer the preparation for such person in another direction, right? To in order to provide the rest to their weakening organs, he says. So this is a two kind of situation, right? Physical and mental. We have also the situation of the children, right? So children also should not be instigated or incentivized to develop mediumship, because they have a fragile and delicate organism. And children, the infantile imagination can be easily overexcited, and this would disturb the child, right? So uh, the practice of mediumship in children should be should happen only when it manifests spontaneously, because in that case, the constitution of the child, the boy or the girl, little boy, little girl, is prepared for that, right? But even in this case, the exercise of the mediumship should be done under the supervision of an experienced individual. Right? So this is regarding the problem and dangers of the mediumship. Then we have the role of mediums in communications, because we say that the spirit is communicating, but the spirit does not, it's very rare that the spirit control directly our hand, right? So I said in the beginning that the spirit drive our hand. Well, now I must correct a little bit. It's not the spirit that drive directly our hands. It's we ourselves that drive or receive the communication from the spirit, and then we drive our hands to write the message he's trying to write, right? But in that case, as we as mediums are the intermediate, then we have some role in such communication. We have some influence in such communication. This is what Kardec is saying, right? So the mediums and the communicative spirit, I begin here from the second line, right? The communicative spirit transmits its thought using the medium's incarnate spirit as an intermediary. So Kardec said, the medium's spirit is the interpreter because it is connected to the body, with the medium's body, right, which serves for the communication. So let's take a look at this image here that I have already shown in other times. We have here, this is a case of a talking medium, right, not a writing medium. So this is the medium sit on the table, the physical body for the medium, then the medium spirit disengage from the physical body and stay here at the left side of the physical body, right? So here is the medium spirit. So, and then behind the body, the physical body of the medium is the communicating spirit. So in this case, you see that there is a fluidic cord linking the perispirit of the medium to the physical body. This cord is never cut, right? It's only cut when we die. Then we also have a kind of a fluidic cord linking the communicating spirit to the perispirit of the medium. In this case, this is a temporary, of course, right? It's just what we said in the beginning, right? We said that there must be a kind of a fluidic combination between the fluidic body, fluids of the medium and from the spirit. the combination results in this fluidic cord here, right? So then, through this fluidic cord, the communicating spirit transmit the message to the spirit of the medium, the perispirit, which is here, the spirit with the perispirit. And then the medium is controlling his physical body, gives the message, right? So in this case, is a talking medium. So he will say, you know, what the communicating spirit would want to say. And in the case of a writing medium, he would write, right? So what the message. So this is what happens here. So as the communication goes, does not go directly from the communicating spirit to the physical body of the medium, but through the medium himself, which is here and disengaged from his physical body, then the medium also has some influence in the communication. That's why Kardec saying. And that is when, for example, when you go to a spirit center, for example, sometimes you see that the spirit, communicate spirit, is very brute, is very angry, for example, right? But the medium does not it does not say any harsh words, because the medium control what the communication is saying here, right? So this is the influence of the medium. This in this case for the good, right? So going back here, so if there is no affinity between them, Kardec says, the medium spirit could alter the responses by adapting them to its own ideas. So the medium must try to be the most passive he can, right? Because in order to avoid the influence on the message from the communicate spirits. That's what Kardec is saying here. But then going back to the first line, Kardec says also that the medium soul also can communicate like any other, because if it enjoys a certain degree of liberty, it recovers its quality as a spirit, and it speaks with us as a spirit and not as human being. So this situation would be like this. You have the physical body from the medium here, then the medium disengaged from his physical body and stayed here at this left side of his physical body. And there is no communicating spirit here. In that case, the spirit in this emancipated situation, he can he can have access to the memories of the past lives, for example, and then he can transmit through his own physical body some knowledge, for example, that he doesn't have in the normal situation when he's in his physical body. That's what Kardec is saying here, right? So that's why sometimes it's difficult to distinguish is this message from the spirit of the medium spirit or is from a communicative spirit, right? So, but the way we can distinguish one from the other is to analyzing the content of the message, right? Because sometimes we see that in that case it would be a little bit more difficult, because the medium spirit may access the deep memories that it has, right? So it's kind of a difficulty we have in mediumship here. Then, as the medium soul, as the spirit, medium spirit is always being the intermediary between the communicate and the physical body of the medium, then is what Kardec says, right? The communication of the spirit always bear the personal stamp of the medium. It's precisely like when we look at several places through tinted lenses, right? If the lens is green, we see all green, white, or blue, right? So according to the color. And also we have the situation that the spirit can discuss mathematics, for example, through a medium, and that medium is completely unfamiliar with the subjects. But it doesn't mean that such medium doesn't know nothing about that, doesn't know anything about that, because the medium can have such a knowledge in its deep memory, which he doesn't remember in this incarnation, but is there on his deep memory. So when the spirit communicates, spirit wants to give it his or her message, he accesses this deep memory from the spirit, take from there some elements to compose its message. That's what Kardec is saying here, right? So that's why he says that almost always the spirit of the medium, not the medium as incarnate, possesses such knowledge in its fluidic being or in its perispirit, in what we are I'm calling his deep memory, right? Rather than its incarnate being. So as an incarnate being, he doesn't know anything about mathematics, but as a fluidic being, he has such knowledge. That's what Kardec is saying here, right? And so that the spirit acts upon the medium's archives, right? What I'm calling deep memories, enjoying its own material. And the medium doesn't realize what is going on in this case. So you see that this issue of mediumship is complex, right? Now we have the next issue is the medium moral influence. Um, the medium's faculty, as Kardec says many times, is organic, right? Is an organic predisposition. So if it is organic, it is independent of morality. So it means that a bad person can be a marvelous faculty, mediumship faculty, and a good person doesn't have any faculty at all, right? So, and what important is in this case is the use that the mediums make of his faculty, right? So that's why Kardec says here that concerning the use can be good or bad according to the medium's character, right? So I can utilize my faculty, for example, um, always looking for my self-interest. That would be a bad use, right? Or I can utilize my faculty to help others, right? And then that would be a good use of my faculty. And depending on how I use this faculty that I have, I attract good or bad, evil spirit, right? If I use it in a good way, I will attract good spirits. If I use it in a bad way, I will attract less evolved spirit. So that's what Kardec is saying here, right? That good souls have affinity with good spirits, and bad souls with bad spirits. Therefore, the moral quality of the medium is crucial here to the exercise of the faculty, right? Because depending on the moral quality, he will attract good or evil spirit. And by attracting evil spirits, sooner or later he will have serious problems with his faculty. Kardec also says that all moral imperfections are open doors for evil spirit. Well, it's just what I have just said, right? So, because the evil spirit, they exploit mainly our pride, right? And such a spirit involve us, and then we start to believe that all the messages that I have as a medium is from high evolved spirits. So I have a blind confidence in such superiority of the communication, and then even if the message clearly for any others is not of an elevated degree, I I I I don't see that, right? So this is a kind of a obsession that we are going to see next month, which is the fascination when the spirit, well, he in some way he convinced us. It convinces us, the spirit, that we are always receiving messages from high evolved spirit, and we are not, right? So, in this case, the mediums put on airs of importance and disdain, Kardec says, right, when they are exercising their faculties. And but by the other hand, he says it's important to emphasize uh, the picture of the mediums who are truly moral, right? Mediums in whom we can trust. Um, they are aware that this gift, the medium, the faculty, the mediumship is granted to them for good purpose. They are humble, not they doesn't have a pride, right? So, and such a faculty is granted to them, and they regard themselves unworthy of such favor, because having a mediumship faculty is a kind of a mission that we have, right? To help others, not to satisfy our own interest. That is the issue here regarding moral influence. So, but no matter how good mediums may be, or we, how good mediums we may be, we are never so perfect that we do not have a weak side to be attacked, right? So we must always be uh, uh, aware, right? So what how Jesus said, right? Pray and take attention, right? So and he also says that the good spirits allow the less evolved spirit to deceive us sometimes, so that we can learn to distinguish between truth and falsehood, right? Between a high elevated message and a low one, right? And we must accept it. Kardec says, I had already said this, only what is backed by indisputable evidence. So this is a famous expression here from Kardec, right? Whenever a new opinion appears that seems the least bit doubtful, pass it through the sieve of reason and logic, or reason and common sense, right? And whatever reason and common sense reprove, reject it. It's better to reject the 10 truths than to accept one single lie, because the truth sooner or later will arise, right? So that's the recommendation of Kardec. But we also, besides the influence of the moral influence of the medium, we also have the influence of the surrounding. Surrounding means that when we are going, when we are, for example, working in a spirit center, we are working in a group, right? So there is a group of a person there. So this is the surrounding that Kardec saying here. The group that's participating in that meeting, and then all the spirits who surround the medium help the medium either for good or for evil, and then it depends on which kind of a spirit we attract, right, in our work. And that's why Kardec says that high order spirit do not attend the meetings in which their presence would be futile, right? Uh, where persons are interested in their in resolving their personal problems, for example. In such kind of meetings, good spirits does not appear, but the evil spirits appear a lot, right? So many good evil spirits attend such kind of meetings, and then they deceive everyone there in that meeting. So high order spirit go where there has been little instruction. They go even to places where where there are little instruction, but there is true sincerity. Right? So here again we see that the high order spirit is more concerned about the morality, right, than some formal manifestation. So it would be wrong to believe it necessary to be a medium in order to attract the beings of the invisible world. So here what Kardec is saying, that is not only mediums that attract spirits, right? Any person, attracts the spirits, because they are everywhere, right? So they are constantly around us, in our home, in the streets, right? Everywhere. They watch and observe us, interfere in our meetings. Then you can think, well, but then if I'm here in my home alone, is there are there spirits around me? Yes, they are. But then we could start to be frightened by that situation. But then what important here is that spirit will always be here around us. What matters is what kind of a spirit is around us, and that depends on us, right? Not depend on them. For example, if I'm in my home with my family, I'm trying to have peace and harmony here in my family, and well, in that case, we would attract only good spirits, right? So they would be around us, but good familiar spirit perhaps, but not bad spirit, right? But if I live in a home that we are fighting with each other every time, so in that case, we also would be surrounded by spirits, but evil ones, right? So depend on us, not on them. That is very important to know. Uh, so a serious meeting, as Kardec says, is not always sufficient for receiving elevated communication because sometimes people are there, uh, everyone is concentrated, is very serious there, but they are, for example, they're only interested in manifestation, on the spirit manifestations. They are not there interested for example, in learn about have a good message that would make us better person, right? So that's why a serious meeting doesn't mean that a good spirit will come. That's what Kardec saying here. Uh, he says that there are individuals who never smile and yet their hearts could not be purer. So in that case, good spirit would not come. That such person is serious, but doesn't have much sentiment, right? And that's why he says that more than anything else, it is the heart that attracts good spirits. So always sentiment, always morality, always heart, right? Not seriousness, formal in a formal sense, you know. So the conditions of surrounding will be better when there are moral homogeneity for the good, right? So everyone in that meeting are are looking for doing good, right? Everyone there have has elevated sentiments and a sincere desire to learn. In that case, we were good spirit would come and would give us beautiful message, right? Which would help us to become better person. So that's what Kardec saying here. So with that, we finish here the issue of development of mediums, and the next month we will study this important, very important issue that is obsession, the influence that low evolved spirits can have on us, and which which degrees of a domination he can have upon us, but also and this is important to us to 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 distinguish, right, how hard is the obsession we are going through, and then but we also learn how to get rid of such situation. So this is a important complement of this issue of development of our faculty. And with that, I finish here my presentation. Here's the chapters that I went through to prepare this presentation, and then I'm open for any question or observation you may have. Thank you. Let's say here. Okay. Well, today, unfortunately, Esteban could not be with us because he has a professional appointment, and therefore since we don't have any question here, let me finish then with final prayer, and hope we can find again next month. It will be on probably on the, I believe is 10th of September. We'll see the, let me see here, uh, when we are going to have our next meeting. September, no, 13th of September. 13th of September. We're going to see the issue obsession. Okay, so let's close with our final prayer. So let's thank all the spiritual benefactors for the all support they they gave us during the presentation today, and also we should elevate our thoughts to Jesus and thank him also for this opportunity to get knowing the Spiritist doctrine and understanding much of the teachings that he left with us 2,000 years ago. And with the Spiritism, at the third revelation, we can understand, as Kardec always says, where we came from, where we are going to, and what we are doing here on Earth, right? So that's very important because give us a direction on our life as spirits. So finally, let's thank God for this opportunity of this incarnation. So be it.
Thank you, my friend.
Esteban.
Thank you for rescuing me. Thank you all. Roberto did a great job. I was watching him. Unfortunately, I couldn't hear. Now I will listen to the presentation. But thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here with us. And Roberto, Fiesp, I want to say thank you for this wonderful partnership we
No,
had.
I thank you for the opportunity.
Okay. So thank you, guys. I'll see you next Thursday. And stay tuned. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.